First contact and mockery. The star-speckled void of space stretched endlessly before Captain Alina Reyes as she stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, Earth's flagship and pride of the newly formed United Earth Space Force. Excitement tingled through her body, a mix of anticipation and nervousness that she fought to keep hidden from her crew. Today was the day humanity would take its first steps onto the galactic stage. Entering the Proxima Centauri system, Captain, announced Navigator Sarah Chen, her fingers dancing over the holographic controls. ETA to the rendezvous point, 10 minutes. Alina nodded, her dark eyes scanning the bridge crew. Each face mirrored her own mixture of emotions: hope, fear, determination. They were making history, carrying the dreams and aspirations of billions of humans who had looked to the stars and wondered if they were alone in the universe. They had their answer now. They were not alone, and the galaxy was a far busier place than anyone on Earth had imagined. The invitation had come just 6 months ago, a message beamed directly to every communications device on the planet. The Galactic Alliance, a confederation of spacefaring species, had been watching Earth for centuries. Now they deemed humanity ready for first contact and extended an invitation to join their ranks. Earth's governments had scrambled to respond, setting aside old rivalries to present a united front. The ESS Horizon, along with its small escort fleet, represented the best technology Earth had to offer. It wasn't much compared to the ships they'd seen in the Alliance's message, but it was a start. As they approached the designated coordinates, a massive structure shimmered into view. The Proxima Centauri diplomatic station hung in space like a giant, gleaming snowflake, its crystalline arms stretching out to cradle visiting ships. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the ship's tactical officer. "It's beautiful." Alina silently agreed, but she kept her focus on the task at hand. "Comms, hail the station. Let them know we've arrived." Before the communications officer could comply, a flash of light announced the arrival of another ship. Alina's jaw dropped as she beheld the newcomer. It was easily 10 times the size of the Horizon, its sleek hull gleaming with an iridescent sheen that seemed to bend light around it. "Incoming transmission, Captain," the comms officer reported, his voice tight with awe. On screen, Alina ordered, straightening her uniform. The main viewscreen flickered to life, revealing a being that looked like a cross between a squid and a tree. Its trunk-like body was covered in shimmering bark, while tentacles waved gently around a bulbous head dotted with several eyes. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said, its voice a melodious series of clicks and whistles translated by the computer. "I am Ambassador Zilith of the arboreal cephalopods, representing the Galactic Alliance. Welcome to Proxima Centauri Station." Alina stepped forward, chin held high. "Thank you, Ambassador Zilith. I am Captain Alina Reyes of the Earth Ship Horizon. On behalf of humanity, we are honored to accept your invitation." Zilith's tentacles rippled in what Alina hoped was a gesture of acknowledgement. "Your punctuality is appreciated, Captain. However, I must admit to some concern regarding your mode of transportation." Alina felt a flicker of unease. "I'm not sure I understand, Ambassador." "The Horizon is the most advanced ship in Earth's fleet." A sound like rustling leaves emanated from Zilith. Laughter, Alina realized with a sinking feeling. "My dear Captain, your advanced ship is using primitive fusion drives and chemical thrusters. I'm surprised you managed to reach Proxima Centauri within my lifetime." Heat rose in Alina's cheeks, but she kept her voice steady. "We may not have the technology of the Alliance yet, Ambassador, but we have determination and ingenuity. Given time, we will prove ourselves worthy allies." Zilith's tentacles waved dismissively. "Time is something the galaxy has precious little of, Captain. But come, dock your quaint vessel, and we shall discuss your species' place in the greater scheme of things." As the transmission cut off, Alina turned to her crew. She saw anger and embarrassment on their faces, mirroring her own emotions. "Well," she said, forcing a smile, It seems we have our work cut out for us. Let's show them what humans can do, shall we? The docking process was nerve-wracking. The Horizon's maneuvering thrusters, state-of-the-art by Earth standards, seemed clumsy and imprecise compared to the graceful movements of the alien ships around them. By the time they were securely docked, Elena's palms were slick with sweat inside her gloves. As Elena led her delegation through the airlock, she marveled at the station's interior. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that shifted and flowed. The air was thick with a mix of scents, some floral, others musky, and still others completely alien. They were met by a group of beings as diverse as Elena could have imagined. Besides the tree squid ambassador Zilith, there were creatures that looked like sentient crystals, floating gas clouds contained in transparent suits, and even a being that appeared to be made entirely of light. Ah, the humans arrive at last, Zilith announced, his tentacles twirling in what Elena was beginning to recognize as amusement. Tell me, Captain Rice, how long did your journey take? A year? 2. Elena straightened her back, refusing to be cowed. We made the journey in just under 6 months, Ambassador. A new record for human space travel. A ripple of what sounded like laughter passed through the assembled aliens. The being of light pulsed brightly as it spoke, its voice sounding like chimes in Elena's translator. 6 months for 4 light years. Oh, you poor, primitive creatures. No wonder you've been isolated for so long. Anger flared in Elena's chest, but she pushed it down. This was not the time for emotional outbursts. We may be behind in some areas, but humanity has much to offer. We're quick learners, adaptable, and... Yes, Zilith interrupted, waving a tentacle. We've heard it all before from other young races, but the galaxy is a dangerous place, Captain. We don't have time to coddle species that can barely leave their own star system. The crystal being chimed in, its facets reflecting the station's lights in dazzling patterns. Perhaps we should reconsider their invitation. They're clearly not ready for membership in the Alliance. Elena felt her heart sink. This was going all wrong. Humanity's dreams of joining a galactic community, of learning and growing alongside other intelligent species, were crumbling before her eyes. But then she remembered the faces of her crew, the billions of humans watching and waiting back on Earth. She thought of all the challenges her species had overcome, from splitting the atom to curing cancer to taking their first steps on Mars. Humanity had faced mockery and doubts before, and they had always proved their critics wrong. With renewed determination, Elena stepped forward, her voice ringing clear and strong. You're right, Ambassador Zilith. We are behind in our technology. We are young compared to your species, but that is precisely why you should welcome us. The aliens fell silent, their attention fixed on the human captain. We may not have faster-than-light travel or energy weapons or whatever marvels you possess, Elena continued, her passion evident in every word. But we have something that I suspect might be rare in this galaxy, a fresh perspective. We have creativity born from limitations, ingenuity forged by necessity. Give us a chance, and I promise you, we will surprise you. For a long moment, silence reigned in the docking bay. Then, to Elena's surprise, the being of light pulsed with what seemed to be approval. Well spoken, human. It has been some time since we've encountered such spirit. Zilith's tentacles curled thoughtfully. Perhaps we have been hasty in our judgment. Very well, Captain Reyes. You shall have your chance to prove humanity's worth. But be warned. The trials ahead will test your species to its limits. As the aliens led them deeper into the station, Elena allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't the warm welcome they had hoped for, but it was a start. Humanity had its foot in the door of galactic society, and she was determined to throw that door wide open. Little did Elena know that far away, back on Earth, a team of scientists was about to make a discovery that would change everything. A breakthrough that would soon have the galaxy eating its words and staring in awe at the ingenuity of humanity. The hyperdrive breakthrough. Dr. Aisha Patel stared at the holographic display, her dark eyes wide with disbelief. The simulation was running for the 100th time, and for the 100th time, it was showing the same impossible result. "It can't be," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the quantum computers that filled the underground laboratory. Her colleague, Dr. Marcus Chen, looked up from his own workstation, his face etched with concern. "Aisha, what is it?" Aisha's fingers flew over the controls, running the simulation again. "Marcus, I think we've done it. We've cracked it." Marcus hurried over, his eyes scanning the complex equations and models on Aisha's screen. As understanding dawned, his jaw dropped. "My God," he breathed. "Is that a stable wormhole?" Aisha finished, a grin spreading across her face. "We've figured out how to create and maintain a traversable Einstein-Rosen bridge." The implications were staggering. This wasn't just faster-than-light travel. This was instantaneous transportation across vast distances of space. It was the holy grail of physics, a breakthrough that would catapult humanity from a primitive planet-bound species to a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. As Aisha and Marcus celebrated their breakthrough, halfway across the solar system, Captain Alina Reyes was having a decidedly less joyous experience. The Galactic Alliance had grudgingly allowed humanity to establish a small diplomatic outpost on Mars, but the condescension from the alien representatives was becoming harder to bear with each passing day. "You mean to tell me," Ambassador Zilith was saying, his tentacles writhing in what Alina had come to recognize as exasperation, "that your species still hasn't figured out how to terraform your own planets? Mars has been sitting here, ripe for colonization, and you've barely managed to establish this quaint little outpost." Alina bit back a sharp retort. Over the past 6 months, she had learned that diplomacy often meant swallowing her pride. "We're making progress, Ambassador. Our scientists are working around the clock, too." "Oh, spare me the excuses," Zilith interrupted. "Face it, Captain. Your species is simply out of its depth. Perhaps it's time we discussed scaling back humanity's involvement in galactic affairs. For your own protection, of course." Before Alina could respond, her communicator chirped urgently. "Excuse me, Ambassador," she said, grateful for the interruption. She stepped away and activated the device. "Ray is here." The voice of Admiral Dueres, head of the United Earth Space Force, came through, crackling with excitement. "Captain, drop whatever you're doing and get back to Earth immediately. There's been a breakthrough. A big one." Alina's heart raced. "What kind of breakthrough, sir?" "The kind that changes everything," Dueres replied. "Get your crew together and haul ass back home. You're about to make history." As Alina turned back to Zilith, she couldn't quite keep the smirk off her face. "I'm terribly sorry, Ambassador, but something urgent has come up. We'll have to continue this discussion another time." Zilith's tentacles curled in annoyance. "More human inefficiency, I suppose. Very well, run along. We'll be here, advancing galactic civilization while you fumble with your primitive toys." Alina bit her tongue, knowing that soon, very soon, those words would be eaten. The journey back to Earth took far too long for Alina's liking, even pushing the Horizon's engines to their limits. As they approached the blue marble of their home world, Alina's second-in-command, Commander David Okafor, joined her on the bridge. "Any idea what this is about, Captain?" he asked, his Nigerian accent tinged with curiosity. Alina shook her head. Admiral Dueres was tight-lipped, but whatever it is, it's big. He sounded excited. I haven't heard him like that since we made first contact. As the Horizon settled into orbit, they were immediately hailed by Lunar Base 1. "Captain Reyes, please proceed to the following coordinates for immediate briefing." The coordinates led them to a nondescript facility buried deep within the Oceanus Procellarum. As Alina and her senior staff were escorted through layers of security, the air of secrecy and excitement became palpable. They were led into a large, circular room dominated by a holographic projector. Admiral Guerres was there, along with a group of scientists Elena didn't recognize. One of them, a woman of Indian descent with intelligent eyes, stepped forward. "Captain Rice, I'm Dr. Aisha Patel," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for coming so quickly. We have something to show you that I think you'll find quite interesting." With a gesture, Dr. Patel activated the holographic display. A complex model of swirling energy appeared, twisting and folding in on itself in ways that made Elena's head spin. "What you're looking at," Dr. Patel explained, her voice brimming with pride, "is a stable, traversable wormhole. We've done it, Captain. We've cracked faster than light travel." Elena felt her knees go weak. "You're serious? This isn't theoretical. You've actually created one." Dr. Patel nodded, grinning. "We've successfully generated micro-wormholes in the lab. Scaling up is our next challenge, but the principles are sound. Within a year, maybe two, we'll be able to outfit ships with what we're calling hyperdrive technology." Admiral Guerres stepped forward, his eyes gleaming. "Can you imagine the looks on those smug alien faces when we show up at their next meeting, having crossed the galaxy in the blink of an eye?" Elena could imagine it all too well, and the thought sent a thrill through her. But a sobering realization tempered her excitement. "Sir, with all due respect, if we reveal this technology too soon, we'll be painting a target on our backs. The other species might see us as a threat." Guerres nodded gravely. "You're right, of course. That's why we're going to play this close to the vest. Dr. Patel and her team will continue their work in secret. Meanwhile, we'll be refitting the entire fleet with the new hyperdrive technology. When we're ready, we'll reveal ourselves to the galaxy in a way they'll never forget." Over the next 18 months, Earth was a hive of activity. The hyperdrive project, codenamed Prometheus, consumed vast resources as the brightest minds on the planet worked tirelessly to bring the technology from theory to reality. All the while, humanity maintained its facade of a struggling young species to the Galactic Alliance. Elena found herself once again on diplomatic duty, swallowing her pride as the likes of Zilith and other alien representatives continued to mock and belittle human achievements. But now, every condescending remark, every dismissive wave of a tentacle or flash of a crystalline appendage only fueled her determination. Soon, she knew, the tables would turn. Finally, the day arrived. Elena stood on the bridge of the newly christened ESS Prometheus, Earth's first hyperdrive-equipped vessel. Gone were the bulky engines and fuel tanks of old. The ship was sleek, its hull incorporating exotic materials that could withstand the stresses of wormhole travel. "All systems are go, Captain," reported Commander Okafor, his fingers dancing over the holographic controls. "Hyperdrive is powered up and stable." Elena took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. "Send the message to Earth. The eagle has spread its wings." Moments later, Admiral Guerres's voice came through, tight with anticipation. "You have a go, Prometheus. Show them what humanity can do." Elena nodded to her navigator. "Plot a course for the Galactic Alliance headquarters. Let's go introduce ourselves properly." As the hyperdrive engaged, Elena felt a momentary sensation of stretching, as if her very atoms were being pulled apart and reassembled. The starfield on the view screen twisted, folded, and then they were there. In the space of a heartbeat, they had traversed thousands of light years. Before them loomed the massive structure of the Galactic Alliance headquarters, a sprawling space station that dwarfed even the Proxima Centauri diplomatic post. And all around it, the combined fleets of 100 alien races went about their business. Until, one by one, they noticed the newcomer in their midst. "We're being hailed," announced the comms officer, a note of amusement in his voice. "It's Ambassador Zilith. He sounds confused." Elena allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. "On screen," she ordered. Zilith's image appeared, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "Captain Reyes." "What? How? This is impossible. You can't be here. Elena leaned forward, savoring the moment. Oh, but we are, Ambassador. Humanity sends its regards. I believe you said something about us fumbling with our primitive toys. Well, allow me to introduce you to our latest toy. We call it the hyperdrive. As Zilith sputtered incoherently, Elena glanced around at her crew. She saw in their eyes the same pride, the same fierce joy that she felt. They had done it. Against all odds, against the mockery and dismissal of an entire galaxy, humanity had proven its worth. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's fleet. Now it was humanity's turn to smile. Galactic crisis and human initiative. The news of humanity's hyperdrive technology spread through the Galactic Alliance like wildfire. What had once been dismissive amusement towards the primitive humans quickly turned to a mixture of awe, fear, and in some cases, resentment. Captain Elena Reyes found herself at the center of a diplomatic storm. The Prometheus had barely docked at the Alliance headquarters before she was whisked away to an emergency council meeting. The council chamber was a vast, circular room, its domed ceiling a perfect replica of the galactic core. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the tiered seats, their murmurs creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and rumbles. At the center stood Ambassador Zilith, his tentacles writhing agitatedly as he addressed the assembly. Order. We must have order. His translator struggled to convey the urgency in his voice. The humans have upset the balance of power in our galaxy. We must decide how to respond to this unprecedented development. Elena stood tall, her chin held high as she faced the assembled representatives. She could feel the weight of their stares, some curious, others hostile. But she was no longer the awestruck captain who had first set foot in Proxima Centauri Station. Now she spoke for a humanity that had proven its worth. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Alliance, she began, her voice clear and strong. I stand before you not as a threat, but as a partner. Humanity has achieved this breakthrough not to dominate, but to join you as equals in exploring and protecting our shared galaxy. A crystalline being chimed in, its facets flashing with agitation. Pretty words, human. But how can we trust a species that has hidden such a monumental discovery from us? For all we know, you could have an armada of these hyperdrive ships ready to conquer us all. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Elena felt her heart race, but she kept her composure. We kept our research secret for the same reason any of you would protect a technological advantage. We had been dismissed and belittled since our first contact. Can you blame us for wanting to prove ourselves on our own terms? Before the debate could heat up further, alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights bathed the council chamber, casting eerie shadows across alien faces. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room, showing a star map of a nearby sector. A mass of swirling darkness was creeping across it, swallowing stars as it advanced. By the cosmic egg, Xylith whispered, his tentacles curling in horror. It's the void. It's back. Chaos erupted in the chamber as panicked representatives shouted questions and demands. Elena turned to Zilith, her face grim. Ambassador, what is the void? Zilith's eyes swiveled to meet hers, filled with a fear that transcended species. The void is an ancient enemy, Captain Reyes, a cosmic anomaly that consumes everything in its path. Planets, stars, even the fabric of space-time itself. We thought we had contained it millennia ago, but now, how do we stop it? Elena asked, her mind already racing with possibilities. A bitter laugh escaped Xylith. Stop it. Child, galaxies have burned trying to stop the void. The best we can do is evacuate the threatened systems and hope it burns itself out before it consumes too much. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she watched the holographic display. Entire solar systems were vanishing into the creeping darkness. How many inhabited worlds are in the void's path? A light being pulsed nearby, its chiming voice heavy with sorrow. At its current trajectory, the void will consume 17 populated systems within the next standard month. Billions of lives are at stake. The council devolved into arguments about evacuation priorities and resource allocation. Elena watched in growing frustration as precious time was wasted on political maneuvering and blame shifting. Finally, she'd had enough. "Stop," she shouted, her voice cutting through the din. "While you argue, people are dying. We need to act now." All eyes turned to her, some surprised, others angry at the interruption. Elena pressed on. "You say the void can't be stopped, but has anyone tried since the development of our hyperdrive technology? The ability to create stable wormholes could be the key to containing or even neutralizing this threat." Zilith's tentacles waved dismissively. "And what would you know of cosmic threats, human? Your species has barely left its own star system." Elena's eyes flashed. "We may be young, Ambassador, but that means we're not bound by preconceptions of what's possible. Give us a chance. Let humanity lead the response to this crisis." A tense silence fell over the chamber. Then, slowly, a massive being that looked like a sentient gas cloud floated forward. When it spoke, its voice was like distant thunder. "The human speaks wisdom. We have grown complacent in our ancient knowledge. Perhaps it is time for fresh eyes to examine this threat." Murmurs of agreement began to spread. Zilith's tentacles curled and uncurled as he considered. Finally, he gave the equivalent of a resigned sigh. "Very well, Captain Reyes. Humanity has shocked us once already. Perhaps you can do so again. What do you propose?" Elena straightened, her mind racing. "First, we need all the data you have on the void. Its composition, behavior patterns, everything. Then, I need to consult with our scientists. Dr. Patel and her team might be able to adapt our hyperdrive technology to create a containment field." She turned to address the entire council. "But we can't do this alone. We'll need resources, ships, and volunteers from every species. This isn't just humanity's fight. It's a fight for the entire galaxy." As the council chamber erupted into a flurry of activity, Elena felt a mix of determination and fear. Humanity had wanted to prove itself to the galaxy. Now, they had their chance, but the stakes were higher than anyone could have imagined. Back on Earth, the news of the void's threat was met with a mixture of terror and resolve. Dr. Aisha Patel and her team worked around the clock, adapting their hyperdrive technology into what they hoped would be a weapon against the cosmic horror. "The principle is sound," Aisha explained to a joint session of Earth's leaders and top military brass. Her holographic display showed a complex network of overlapping wormholes. "By creating a web of micro-wormholes around the void, we should be able to redirect its energy back in on itself, essentially causing it to consume itself." Admiral Guerres leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "And you're sure this will work?" Aisha hesitated. "Honestly, Admiral, we can't be sure of anything when dealing with a phenomenon like this. But based on our simulations, it's our best shot." The President of the United Earth Government nodded gravely. "Then that's what we'll do." Humanity stepped onto the galactic stage, promising a fresh perspective. Now it's time to deliver. As preparations ramped up, Elena found herself back on the bridge of the Prometheus, leading a fleet of ships from a dozen different species. The diversity of the vessels was staggering. From the crystalline ships of the Facet Collective to the organic, tentacled craft of Zilith's people. "It's a beautiful sight," Commander Okafor remarked, standing beside her. "Who would have thought, 6 months ago, that we'd be leading a fleet like this?" Elena nodded, a small smile playing on her lips despite the gravity of their mission. "It's what we do, David. Humanity has always shined brightest when facing impossible odds." As they approached the edge of the void's advance, Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. The view screen showed a wall of absolute darkness, punctuated by flashes of energy as entire stars were consumed. "All ships, this is Captain Reyes," she broadcast to the fleet. "Commence deployment of hyperdrive generators as planned. May whatever gods you believe in watch over us all." As the fleet moved into position, Elena couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. From a dismissed, primitive species to the galaxy's last hope, Humanity had come so far in so little time. Now, as they prepared to face a threat older than human civilization itself, Alina sent up a silent prayer, not just for success, but for the dawn of a new era, one where humanity and the other species of the Galactic Alliance would stand together, united against whatever challenges the universe might throw at them. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity was leading the charge. Battle against the void. The fleet hung in space, a fragile barrier between the void and the rest of the galaxy. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, her eyes fixed on the swirling darkness that filled the viewscreen. The void was unlike anything she had ever seen, a roiling mass of nothingness that seemed to devour light itself. "All ships report ready, Captain," Commander Okafor announced, his voice tight with tension. Alina nodded, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "Commence Operation Lightbringer." At her command, the fleet sprang into action. Hundreds of ships, representing dozens of species, moved in perfect synchronization. They formed a spherical formation around the leading edge of the void, each vessel deploying the modified hyperdrive generators developed by Dr. Patel and her team. "Generators online," reported the science officer, her fingers flying over the holographic controls. "Initiating wormhole web in 3, 2, 1. A flash of blue-white energy erupted from each ship, lancing out to connect with the beams from nearby vessels. In moments, a shimmering network of energy surrounded the void, like a net of starlight cast into the depths of space. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the edge of the void began to ripple and distort. "It's working," Okafor exclaimed, leaning forward to study the sensor readings. "The void's expansion has slowed by 22%, 35%, 41%. Cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Alina kept her eyes on the viewscreen. Something didn't feel right. The void's surface was churning more violently now, tendrils of darkness lashing out against the energy web. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. "Energy spike detected," the science officer shouted. "The void is." Her words were cut off as a massive tendril of darkness shot out from the void, piercing through the energy web. It lashed out, wrapping around the nearest ship, a crystalline vessel of the Facet Collective. "Evasive maneuvers," Alina ordered, but it was too late. The crystal ship shattered, its fragments swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Chaos erupted across the fleet as more tendrils emerged, targeting ships seemingly at random. The comm channels filled with panicked cries and desperate pleas for help. "Status report," Alina demanded, gripping the arms of her chair as the Prometheus shuddered under a near miss. "The wormhole web is destabilizing," the science officer reported, her voice shaking. "The void is. It's adapting to our technology. It's using the energy from the destroyed ships to grow stronger." Alina's mind raced. They had underestimated the void, assumed it was merely a mindless force of nature. But this showed intelligence, adaptability. They weren't just fighting a cosmic phenomenon. They were fighting a malevolent entity. "All ships, fall back to secondary positions," she ordered. "Regroup and—" Her words were cut off as the ship rocked violently. A tendril of void stuff had grazed their hull, leaving a trail of frozen metal in its wake. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Okafor reported. "Emergency force fields are holding, but barely." Alina gritted her teeth. They were losing this battle, and losing it fast. If they didn't come up with a new strategy soon, the entire fleet, and then the galaxy, would fall to the void. As if sensing her thoughts, a transmission cut through the chaos. "Prometheus, this is Dr. Patel. Captain, are you receiving?" "We hear you, Doctor," Alina responded, hope flickering in her chest. "Please tell me you have good news." "I've been analyzing the data from the battle." Aisha's voice came through, tense but determined. "Captain, the void isn't just adapting to our technology, it's assimilating it. It's learning from every ship it destroys, growing more complex." Alina felt a chill run down her spine. Then how do we stop it? There was a pause, and when Aisha spoke again, her voice was grim. We overload it. The void is consuming energy and information at an exponential rate. If we can force-feed it more than it can handle, we might be able to trigger a collapse. And how exactly do we do that? Elena asked, even as she began to suspect the answer. We'd need to detonate a hyperdrive core at the heart of the void, Aisha replied. The release of energy would be catastrophic. It might be enough to overwhelm the void's ability to adapt and assimilate. The implication hung heavy in the air. Such a mission would be a one-way trip. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, weighing the options. When she opened them, her decision was made. Understood, Doctor. We'll handle it from here. Prometheus out. She turned to her crew, seeing the mix of fear and determination on their faces. I need volunteers for a critical mission. I won't order anyone to do this. To her pride but not her surprise, every hand on the bridge went up. I'll go, Captain, Okafor said, stepping forward. The Prometheus needs you here to coordinate the fleet. Elena shook her head. No, David. The fleet will follow your orders as well as mine. This is my responsibility. Before he could protest further, she turned to address the fleet. All ships, this is Captain Reyes. Prepare for a final push. We're going to open a path to the heart of the void. The Prometheus will deliver the payload that will end this threat once and for all. As the crew prepared the ship for its final mission, Elena recorded a brief message to be sent back to Earth. She spoke of hope, of the bravery she had witnessed, and of her faith that humanity and its new allies would forge a brighter future among the stars. With preparations complete, Elena took her place at the helm. The Prometheus's engines flared to life, pushing the ship towards the roiling mass of the void. The rest of the fleet formed up around them, their weapons blazing to clear a path. As they penetrated deeper into the void, reality itself seemed to warp and twist. The view screen showed impossible geometries, flashes of other dimensions, echoes of worlds long dead. Through it all, Elena kept the ship steady on its course. We're approaching the theoretical center, the science officer reported, her voice strained. Hyperdrive core is primed for overload. Helena nodded, her hand steady on the controls despite the maelstrom around them. All other ships, fall back to safe distance. It's been an honor serving with you all. As the acknowledgments poured in, Elena allowed herself a small smile. From a mocked and dismissed species to the saviors of the galaxy, humanity had come so far. Whatever happened next, they had proven their worth 100 times over. Initiating hyperdrive core overload, she announced, her voice calm. See you on the other side. With a final surge of its engines, the Prometheus plunged into the heart of darkness. For a moment, there was nothing but the void. Then, a flash of light brighter than 1,000 suns erupted from within its depths. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance as the light expanded, pushing back the darkness. On the edge of the void, the remaining fleet watched and waited, hoping against hope that their sacrifices had not been in vain. The battle against the void had reached its climax, and the entire galaxy held its breath. A new era for humanity. The blinding flash faded, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Across the combined fleet of the Galactic Alliance, crews held their breath, all eyes fixed on their sensor readings. For a long, tense moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, impossibly, the void began to shrink. On the bridge of the arboreal cephalopod flagship, Ambassador Zilith's tentacles waved in agitation. Is it really happening? He asked, his translator barely able to convey his mix of hope and disbelief. Commander David Okafor, now in command of the human contingent, leaned forward, his eyes never leaving the main view screen. It's collapsing in on itself, he confirmed, his voice tight with emotion. The Prometheus did it. They actually did it. As the assembled fleet watched in awe, the void continued to contract, the swirling darkness folding in on itself again and again. Stars that had been swallowed reappeared, their light seemingly brighter than before. Within hours, The cosmic threat that had terrified the galaxy for eons was reduced to a pinprick, and then to nothing at all. A cheer went up across the fleet, a cacophony of alien voices united in joy and relief. But for the human crews, the victory was bittersweet. The Prometheus, along with Captain Elena Reyes and her brave crew, was gone. In the days that followed, as the fleet began the long process of assessing the damage and helping affected systems recover, the story of humanity's sacrifice spread across the galaxy. The species that had once been mocked as primitive upstarts was now hailed as saviors. 1 month after the Battle of the Void, as it came to be known, a solemn ceremony was held at the Galactic Alliance headquarters. Representatives from every member species gathered to pay tribute to those who had fallen and to chart a course for the future. Commander Okafor stood at the podium, his dress uniform crisp, his eyes scanning the assembled dignitaries. Among them, he could see Dr. Aisha Patel, her face a mixture of pride and sorrow. The loss of Elena and the Prometheus crew weighed heavily on them all. "We gather here today," Okafor began, his voice carrying across the hushed chamber, "not just to mourn our losses, but to celebrate a new beginning. The threat of the void brought our civilizations together in a way we never thought possible. It showed us that our differences are insignificant in the face of cosmic challenges." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. Humanity came to the galactic stage as newcomers, eager to learn and contribute. We were met with skepticism, even mockery, but we didn't let that deter us. Instead, it drove us to push harder, to innovate in ways that surprised even ourselves. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Okafor continued, his voice growing stronger. The hyperdrive technology that many dismissed as impossible became the key to our victory. But more than that, it was the human spirit of determination, creativity, and self-sacrifice that made the difference. Captain Elena Reyes and the crew of the Prometheus embodied the very best of humanity, and their sacrifice will never be forgotten. As he spoke, a holographic image materialized above the podium, a perfect rendering of the Prometheus. Okafor saw more than a few alien eyes dampen with their species equivalent of tears. "But we cannot rest on our laurels," Okafor pressed on. "The galaxy still faces many challenges. Climate disasters, resource scarcity, political conflicts. These problems don't end with the void. But I believe that together, combining the wisdom of ancient civilizations with the fresh perspective of younger races, we can build a brighter future for all." Ambassador Zillith floated forward, his tentacles moving in a gesture that Okafor had learned to recognize as deep respect. "Commander," he said, his translator conveying a tone of humility that Okafor had never heard from the alien before, "on behalf of the Galactic Alliance, I extend our deepest gratitude to humanity. We also offer our sincere apologies for our earlier misjudgments. Your species has proven itself 100 times over, and we would be honored to have Earth take its place as a full member of the Alliance Council." A wave of approval swept through the chamber. Okafor felt a lump form in his throat, thinking of how much Elena would have loved to see this moment. He nodded solemnly. "Earth accepts, Ambassador. We look forward to working alongside all of you to forge a new era of galactic cooperation." As the ceremony concluded, Okafor found himself on a balcony overlooking the vast expanse of space. Dr. Patel joined him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "They'd be proud, you know," she said softly. "Elena, the crew, they'd be amazed to see how far we've come." Okafor nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "We've got a lot of work ahead of us. The Alliance is already talking about joint scientific ventures, cultural exchange programs. We might even be able to adapt the hyperdrive technology to help terraform planets, open up new avenues for exploration." Aisha's eyes lit up at the possibilities. "Just think, David. A few months ago, we were struggling to be taken seriously. Now we're helping to shape the future of the galaxy." As they stood there, contemplating the vast starfield before them, a bright streak of light caught their attention. A ship, sleeker and more advanced than anything they had seen before, glided past the station. It all bore the combined insignias of a dozen different species, including the Earth's own United Nations emblem. The future's already here, Okafor mused, and we're right at the heart of it. In the years that followed, humanity continued to surprise and impress its galactic neighbors. Earth became a hub of innovation, combining technologies and philosophies from across the Alliance to solve problems once thought insurmountable. The memory of the Prometheus and its crew inspired a new generation of explorers and scientists, eager to push the boundaries of what was possible. And out there, in the vast expanse of space, new wonders and challenges awaited. But this time, Earth wouldn't face them alone. As full partners in the Galactic Alliance, humans worked side by side with beings of all shapes and sizes, united in their quest to unravel the mysteries of the universe. The galaxy had once laughed at humanity's primitive fleet. Now it looked to Earth with respect, admiration, and perhaps a touch of excited apprehension. For if humans could accomplish so much in so little time, who knew what they might achieve in the centuries to come? As new ships bearing the flags of 100 worlds set out to explore uncharted sectors, one thing was certain: the age of human isolation was over. A new era had dawned, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy, and it was only the beginning.